Emergency which service? Do you need fire, police or ambulance?
In this 4-part series, we look at how one man with a secret life changed a community forever until he got questioned. In this episode of Question, we take a look at a man who let the things he liked change his life forever. This story will be very interesting from start to finish. We look at, in part 1, how reports of a missing person causes the neighbors to get questioned. Thanks everyone for watching. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Let's get into it. A family reports a missing person. Officers come out to a scene. After close and careful investigation, clues, evidence start to develop. The residents very strange findings. Boot prints lead to neighbors. Secret discoveries uncover. Fetishes out of your wildest imagination. Sit back, relax, and let me know what you think. I am your host, Lynn Green. Thanks for watching.
The chilling story of Colonel Russell Williams took a stunning turn today. 82 new charges were laid against the former commander of CFB Trenton. Williams, of course, is already charged with murdering 2 women and sexually assaulting 2 others.
He was a killer with the ultimate cover. As a base commander in the Canadian Air Force, Colonel Russell Williams comforted families of the fallen, rubbed shoulders with the Prime Minister, and even flew planes for the Queen.
The details that were out already didn't prepare anyone for what was heard in court today, as Colonel Russell Williams pleaded guilty to 2 murders, 2 sexual assaults, and more than 80 break-ins.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cape Wing Trenton. We just returned from a town hall meeting with the 8-wing men and women, and at this time, Lieutenant General Andre Deschamps, the Chief of the Air Staff, will make a brief statement in both English and French, and then we will follow with a few questions.
In part 1, investigators start with the people closest around the missing person. The first neighbor that they get clues on will sit down with investigators.
You just have a seat there, Russell.
The guy I was speaking with
whatever night that was Russ as well.
Oh, yeah.
I took every number I had.
Yeah, no, they were doing some pretty thorough interviews that night. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I was
All right.
glad to see it.
I'm just going to move your gloves here. That's a little microphone, just to make sure there's nice and clear. As you can see here, everything in this room is videotaped and audio taped.
Check.
You ever been interviewed by the police in a room like this before?
I
Or?
have never been interviewed like this.
Oh, no? Okay.
No.
Let's get this set up here.
I guess the closest interview by NIS for top secret clearance.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, again, Russell, I appreciate you coming in. An investigation like this, I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate it's been big news, especially down Belleville way. And, you know, obviously our approach to cases like this is that we don't give up on somebody being alive until we get evidence that they're not. So because of that, we're treating Jessica's case as an emergent situation, obviously.
Yeah.
So we're fast forwarding things that we might normally take our time with, and that's why we're here on a Sunday afternoon.
Sure.
So again, I appreciate it.
No problem.
We're going to do a pretty thorough interview today. Okay, and the reason for that is because the last thing we want is to be calling people back again and again and again. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over a number of things, and I'm going to explain what all those are to you. Okay. I'm a big coffee guy. I don't know if you're a coffee guy or
I am
not,
a
but I
coffee
didn't
guy,
want to
actually,
drink in
yeah.
front of you. So
No, I appreciate that.
all right, go ahead.
I could definitely. Are they black?
Yeah, they're just black with sugar.
I could definitely take them. I just started my phone. I probably haven't a little bit.
Started your what, sorry?
Gum. Just
Oh,
first
okay.
piece of gum.
Well, there's napkins there if you want to toss it or whatever.
I appreciate that.
All right, and again, like I said, this interview is going to be very thorough. But again, I have a simple rule when I talk to people. It's I'm sure you're the same way. I treat everybody with respect. I don't want to ask if they do the same for me. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by going through what your rights are. Okay? Just like everybody else. Okay. Have you ever been read your rights before?
No.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it on TV a whole bunch of times, but that's usually the American version. So I'll go over it with you briefly. Okay. Basically, in Canada, as you know, I'm sure, is we all have our rights guaranteed under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Right.
Okay. Now, Russell, just to avoid any confusion, because people do get confused when they're talked to by the police, is that you're obviously not under arrest here today. Okay.
Yep.
Anytime you feel you want to leave here, you feel free to do so. The door's not locked. Teresa will walk you down the lobby anytime you want. Okay. If there's anything that comes up in our interview today, Russell, that you feel you want to talk to a lawyer about, you just let me know.
Sure.
Okay. And the reason for that is I want to explain to you exactly what's going on here. Okay. Jessica Lloyd is one of 4 cases that we're currently investigating. Okay.
Right.
And essentially what's happened is over the past about 4 or 5 months, there have been 4 occurrences that, like I said, that we're looking into. 2 of those occurrences occurred in September of 2009. And very briefly, they were up in the Tweed area. They involved somebody entering 2 different women's houses in the evening hours and committing sexual acts. Okay. In November of 2009, a young lady by the name of Marie-France Como
My people.
was found murdered in her home in Brighton. And we believe that there was a sexual component to that crime as well. And then most recently we have Jessica Lloyd's disappearance. Okay, so essentially when you're looking at those kind of crimes, we're looking at a number of different potential criminal charges. All right, we're looking at issues all the way from the most serious one, which is first-degree murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, break and enter with intent to commit sexual assault, forcible confinement. Okay, and so what I want to make sure you understand, and this is what we've been doing with everybody we've been talking to, is that clearly when we find out who's responsible for one or all of those crimes, they could be charged with one or all of those offenses. Okay, whether it's you or whether it's anybody else. All right. And that's why it's important that we make sure that people understand what they have to do and what they don't have to do when they're talking to us. Okay? So as I said before, any point today you feel the need, you want to speak to a lawyer, you let me know, and we can take you to a room where you can do that in private. Okay? Do you have your own lawyer?
I have a realty lawyer, but
Okay.
no, I don't have a lawyer.
All right. If at any point you want to make that call and you don't know who to call, we have a phone list of lawyers that are available to give you advice free of charge right over the phone.
Okay.
So again, if at any point today you want to take advantage of that, you just let me know.
Sure.
Is there any reason you want to call a lawyer now?
Nope.
Okay. A couple other fairly simple and straightforward things that you probably understand, but again, we go over them to make sure everybody's clear, is that you don't have to speak to me today, okay?
Okay.
And the reason for that is because the law considers me to be what we refer to as a person in authority, okay? Probably similar to what you may be considered to be on the base.
Yeah.
And because of that, I can be compelled to appear before any judge in the country, basically, to account for what takes place here today between you and I, okay?
Sure.
And that's the reason why everything's recorded,
Yeah,
because there can't be any more accurate record than that, right? So,
No, understood.
and the other thing I want to make sure you understand is that, you know, you mentioned a second ago about Ms. Como being one of your work associates. So I don't know what's happened since November on the military side of things. But what we want to make people clear on is that if you have been spoken to by any person in authority or any police officer about any of those cases, I don't want what they may have said to you to make you feel influenced or compelled to say anything to me today, okay? Whatever you might have felt influenced or compelled to say to them earlier, you don't have to repeat it to me and you don't have to say anything further, okay?
Okay.
But obviously what you do say, you know, for the third time is being recorded, right? So,
Understood. These first two attacks happened not that far from my place in Tweed. Well, the second one did.
yeah,
We didn't even know the first one had happened, but I understand that was reasonably close as well. But the second one was very close.
yeah,
So certainly at the time, the OPP did a door-to-door.
yeah.
And within a couple of days, probably the same night. So I spoke with a couple of guys then.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm aware of that from looking at the different cases. And essentially, Russell, in a nutshell, that's what we wanted to talk to you about, okay? Those 4 cases are of concern to us. And, you know, you've kind of almost hit the nail on the head about some of our issues that kind of make us want to talk to Russell Williams, okay? Because essentially, there's a connection between you and all 4 of those cases. Would you agree? Geographically,
And then I guess
or
I drive past. Yes, I would
Yeah.
have to say there's a connection. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I'll be quite frank with you. That's why things kind of evolved when the officers talked to you on Thursday night.
Okay.
We kind of went from there because when I think you discussed with them the fact that you were a colonel
Yeah.
at the base.
I was in uniform at the time, so.
Yeah, so pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, then the connection with Miss Como
Yeah.
was made, and I believe you're a door or 2 down from one of those 2 incidents
I think
in Tweed.
3 doors down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very close. Absolutely.
yeah, exactly. So those are some of the issues we wanted to discuss with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So just getting back to these 4 incidents that we're talking about. Maybe you could just give me a little bit of history as to your arrival in the base in Trenton. When did you start working there?
Friday on the day, I was. Friday on the day, I was at home most of the time. Most of the day, I had a sort of a stomach flu.
Okay. In Ottawa or Tweed?
In Tweed.
In Tweed? Okay.
Yeah.
So we backtrack then. So all day Friday, you're at home,
Yeah.
and then what time do you leave to go to the base to sleep there on the Friday night?
Not sure. Probably just went in for just before bed. So I probably left Tweed at between 8 and 9 or so.
Okay. And you get to the base and spend the evening there and get up for the 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
So we backtrack from there. When did you arrive at your home at the cottage? I don't want to get confused between your home in Ottawa and the home in Tweed.
Understood.
So,
No, I had been in Tweed all week.
yeah.
The week prior now. Yeah, I think that's the case. I was in Tweed all week. Flew Saturday. Headed to Ottawa Saturday night.
Okay. So if you didn't have the stomach flu on the Friday, what was your schedule that day?
Really.
Okay.
What would have been my schedule? Just a standard schedule in the office.
Okay.
So, ops brief in the morning, a couple of meetings. I can't remember what the specifics were going to be.
Okay, so Thursday night you slept at Tweed, or you?
Yep.
All right. And what did you do Thursday during the day?
Thursday during the day, I was at the base again. I think it was a fairly standard day. I can't recall exactly, but yeah, nothing. I was not flying, so I was at the base. So I would have gone in early in the morning, back in the evening again.
Okay. Do you remember what time you left the base that night?
I don't remember anything peculiar, so I would say, I don't know, probably 7 to 9, somewhere in that range.
Okay. And that's when you left?
Left the base, yeah.
And what was
It's a 45-minute transit. So
45 minutes home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to walk you through November, but I'm going to take you to a date that's probably pretty fresh in your mind, the day that Marie-France coma.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you found out?
I do. Yeah, I was sent an email. Well, as soon as the ops staff and the base learned, they told me.
Okay.
So I got an email. I can't remember if it was late at night or early in the morning. It was certainly, I saw it, I want to say first thing in the morning, because I had just come back from Ottawa. I was in Ottawa for a set of meetings on one of the days. I can't remember what day of the week we're talking about, but yeah, no, I mean, obviously when your people gets killed, it gets your attention. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I very much remember that coming in.
And how did you know Marie-France coma?
I'd only met her once. She was on a crew I was on just after I got to the base.
Okay.
So I can't even remember. I think it was a one-day trip. I did a number of trips in Canada, transporting our troops, sort of first leg out of Edmonton. We tend to hopscotch them across until they get into theater. So anyway, I can't remember which trip it was, but we did a number of them out to Edmonton just to pick up the troops, bring them to Trenton, and then put a fresh crew on, and because we'd fly out and back in the same day, so pushing the edge of that, and fresh crew on, and they'd continue on after a couple hour delay.
Okay. Do you know roughly when that happened?
That we were on the same crew?
The time you met her, the one time there, yeah.
It was soon after I got to the base, so I don't remember exactly, but I would say in the first couple of months, so August, September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you got that email notifying you that something had happened.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of a clear recollection as to how your schedule was going that week?
Well, I can't remember what day that the message came in. Just a second. No, I can't remember what day of the week, but I'm just thinking there was a whole bunch of activity spun up as a result, obviously. No, I can't remember the day of the week. I'm just trying to think through the news reports I read. No, I'm sorry, I can't remember what day that was, but what we learned after the fact was that the MPs had learnt of her death, I think quite a bit after her body had been discovered.
Okay.
So I think what happened, sorry, just a second. Okay. So I think, if I remember correctly, the MPs learned late that evening. Can't remember when, obviously her body was discovered. It was probably in the news reports, but so they learned, and then they passed it to ops, so they immediately passed it to me.
Okay.
The MPs work for the wing operations officer, so they go through their chain of command, and then as soon as the duty watch officer had that information, she advised me.
Okay. So again, that
along
particular
with,
week.
along with some others.
Right, right. I'm sure it spread like wildfire.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that particular week, do you have any recollection? Well, for instance, when you got the email,
Yeah.
do you remember where you were?
I was at home in Tweed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember if that was a week that you were reasonably stable in Trenton, or had you flown?
No,
over
I
there?
had been in Ottawa. I had been in Ottawa earlier in the week for some meetings over in Gatineau for one of the, it's actually for the C-17 acquisition. I was project director when I was here in Ottawa for that, so just some follow-up stuff for that.
Okay.
So I had been here at some point in that week. Again, I can't remember how the days all fell together, but I seem to remember that I got this word shortly after having come back from Ottawa. It seems to me it was the same week.
So if we were to do a similar investigation in your background, is there anything you can think of that anybody may have misinterpreted, or anything in your history that somebody might say Russell Williams
Absolutely.
did this?
No.
Okay.
Be very boring.
What's that?
It'll be very boring.
All right, because essentially that's what I'm looking at. Is it? You seem like a very intelligent person, and I think you can see how a surprise like that would certainly set off
Absolutely.
some alarm bells in an investigation, right? Okay. So the next thing we need to cover off is, well, I'll just ask you this straight out. Given the types of crimes we're investigating, do you get much chance to watch television shows, CSI, things like that?
I do watch, I prefer Law and Order, but I do watch CSI occasionally, yes.
Okay. So you have an idea of, obviously, the forensic capabilities, things like that are out there. What would you be willing to give me today to help me move past you in this investigation?
What do you need?
Well, would you be willing to supply things like fingerprints, blood samples,
Sure.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Footwear impressions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's what we're gonna ask you to do.
Okay.
All right. Now we have a process we have to go through to do that.
Okay.
And for the blood sample, I don't take the blood sample. We have specially trained officers that are trained to do that.
Okay.
I'm going to step out and make sure they're still available.
Can I assume you're going to be discreet?
It's possible. Yeah.
Because, this would have a very significant impact on the base if they thought you thought I did this.
Well, bottom line, Russell, that's one of the reasons we're here on a Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
The military certainly be of great assistance to us, especially in relation to Miss Como's investigation.
Mhm.
So that's certainly one of the things that went into our decision to give you a call at home today and see if we could deal with this today.
Okay.
So, okay.
Because it's tough to undo the rumor mill once it gets started. But I appreciate that.
Okay. Now that you've had some time to, I know we've been throwing a lot of things at you here, but now you've had some time to think about things. Is there anything that you're concerned about that buccal swab matching in any of those 4 residences? Is there, I guess, let me explain what I'm getting at here, Russell, okay? This is a significant investigation, as you can well imagine.
Yeah.
That DNA is going to be significant in our investigation, both quite possibly to help you, quite possibly to help us.
Understood.
I don't know yet. I don't know what the result is yet.
Mhm.
And I'll go back to the example I gave you because it's a very similar issue, I think. And you talked about the idea of discretion here. Okay. You talked about the idea that I think hopefully you appreciate the fact of how we approached you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And essentially, we have no issues with that. Okay. We talked recently about the whole idea of any unusual sex acts in your history.
Mhm.
But another thing that can often happen in cases like this is that people become concerned about things like extramarital affairs, indiscretions along those lines.
Mhm.
Is there any contact that you may have had with any of those 4 women that you may not want your wife to be aware of? Anything like that that we should know about to try and explain why if your DNA is found, it would help us understand why it may be there.
Absolutely not.
Can you think of any reason why we would find your DNA in any of those residences? Let's focus on, well, for instance, I believe, let me just check the name there, make sure I've got the right address. I'm talking about the house that was just a couple of doors down from you there in Tweed.
A couple of doors down was
the,
Lori. I don't know her last name. I don't know.
Mazzacati?
I don't even know what her last name is, but there's the woman down the road, 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Her name is Lori. I don't know her last name.
All right, let me just make sure we're on the same page here. Okay. My understanding is she lived at 76 Cozy Cove. Yeah, so she would be the second one. The second incident on your road there.
Yep.
A couple of doors down. Ever been in her house?
No. We met her once, I think the first summer we were there, so in 04.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting at. Again, this is a credibility issue, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to come and see you 2 weeks from now and say, you know, Russ,
Yeah.
our CSI people were in that house. And are you familiar with how DNA works?
I think broadly, yes, I would
Okay.
guess so.
One of the challenges we have in 2010 with DNA is it's become so precise that I guess the best way to explain it is I can think back 15 years ago when I started in violent crime investigation.
Yeah.
For us to get a DNA match, the sample we had to find was, you know, probably would have filled half of one of these cups.
Those are-
You know, because they destroy so much of the sample in the testing.
Okay.
Essentially, DNA has become more and more precise to the point where when you and I walked in this room earlier today, we could have sat down, talked for 30 seconds, walked out. CSI officer could have come in 3-4 days from now,
Yeah.
did some swabs here, and he would have found your DNA and my DNA, and probably a lot of other people's DNA.
Sure.
A little bit gross to think about, but essentially, you know, as we talk, you know, a little bit aspirate comes out of our mouth.
Yeah, no, I understand.
that contains our DNA, our our skin cells contain our DNA,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm getting at. If you were ever in Lori's residence, quite possibly, quite innocently, your DNA could be in that residence. Has there ever been a time you've been in there?
No.
Okay. What about the other lady down the road on?
I hadn't even heard that name, so no, I don't actually know who that was.
Okay. Have you ever visited Marie France Como at her residence?
No.
Okay. All right. So you're quite positive there would be no reason why your DNA would be in any of those 3 locations. Okay. Did you know Jessica Lloyd even in passing for any reason?
No, I didn't hear her name till it was on the news.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking that is because I know you were asked that question on Thursday night, and sometimes what we find, and again, this is one of those situations that can sometimes cause us to get in a lengthy investigation as somebody that maybe doesn't deserve it. But what can happen sometimes is somebody gets stopped by the police like you did, and they get asked that question, and people, when they're stopped by the police, they can be nervous, okay? So they blurt out an answer, and then they start driving away, and they go, oh, why'd I do that? Because the problem is that once they get asked again, then they feel compelled to maintain that answer for fear that if they change their answer, somebody could find it. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. So I want to make sure that's not happening here. I don't care what you said to the officers on Thursday night last week. If there's any communication or contact between you and Jessica Lloyd, you've seen her picture, right, around town?
Yeah, I saw
Okay. Ever seen her before?
I don't. No, I would say I have not.
Okay. All right. All right. And you mentioned something about doing some renovations at your property in Tweed there. I think you said something earlier about tearing up carpet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Oh yeah.
okay. When did all that happen?
In 2004 or 5.
Okay. Any recent renovations?
No.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I'm covering all the bases here. Okay. What kind of tires do you have on your Pathfinder?
I think they're Toyo.
Do you know the brand name, or sorry,
I
the
think that
make?
is I don't remember. Sorry, the make is Toyo.
Yeah.
I don't know the model.
Okay. Let's see, I'll read this off to you, see if it rings a bell. Ever heard of, does Toyo Open Country HTS
That sounds
make any
right.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. When did you have those tires put on your Pathfinder?
Well, it's the second version we've had of them, so I think it might have been this past fall. They replaced other ones we'd had on the same.
Okay.
Well, Toyo, I can't say that they were the same, exactly the same model, but our dealership here in Ottawa says they're very popular for the Pathfinders.
Okay.
And they were good. They lasted a long time.
All right. I've had to. I think you were talking about the whole idea of the MPs helping us with our investigation, stuff like this. You have the same system as we do at our headquarters with the swipe cards.
Mhm.
One of the things one of our investigators did is they made a call while I was talking to you there because we were trying to work through that week of the 23rd of November.
Okay.
23rd being the Monday, 24th being the Tuesday.
Okay.
What they've told us is that, and I want to make sure I get this right, is that on the 23rd, your swipe card was being used at the base. Okay.
Okay.
On Tuesday 24th, there was no use of your swipe card.
Okay.
And then on the following days, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there was what appeared to be average activity of your
Okay.
swipe card in the base. Does that make sense to you?
It does. That says that I was in Ottawa on the Tuesday.
Okay. Do you remember where in Ottawa you were?
Yeah, I was in Gatineau with, as I said, meeting about the C-17.
Okay. Now, again, I want to be fair to you here. We're going back 2 months.
Yeah.
Are you sure that would have been the day you were in Ottawa?
Well, only because I wasn't at the base.
Okay.
So I can't remember, honestly, that that's the day I had the meeting in Ottawa, but if I wasn't at the base, it was because I was here.
Okay. Now, if that is the day you had a meeting in Ottawa, do you remember being at the base on the Monday, the 23rd, and swiping your card in and out? Do you remember what you would have done that evening to get to Ottawa for that meeting? Like, would it be...
I drove to Ottawa in the morning of the day of my meeting, so if it was the Tuesday, then I would have left Tweed. It was a very foggy morning
Okay.
that morning, and I drove in that morning.
Okay.
So I would not have been at the base the day I was in Ottawa, because the meeting started at 8:30 or something.
Okay. So you leave the base, you would have went home to your residence in Tweed,
Yep.
and then you left Tweed in the morning and drove up to your meeting in Ottawa.
Yep.
Okay. You leave the meeting in Ottawa is a daytime meeting, evening meeting, or do you remember?
Yeah, it was a daytime meeting, finished, I don't know, mid-afternoon or so.
Okay.
We had lunch and then finished. I think my wife and I had dinner because she was here for work, and then I headed back.
Okay. Well, these are the kind of things I'm trying to draw out here. That's helpful to us. Do you remember where you had dinner?
Well, I don't remember exactly the restaurant, but it was in Westboro because that's where our house was being built at the time. So we had dinner, in a restaurant that we would expect to be able to frequent once the house was finished.
Okay. Remember how you paid?
One of us would have paid by MasterCard. Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure about that, or?
Pretty sure. That's normally how we
Okay.
pay for meals.
All right.
Can't remember if it was me or my wife that paid, but one of us.
Okay. And do you remember which restaurant it was again?
No.
Okay. All right. And you see what I'm getting at, right? I mean, that can be very helpful for us because if we can track
Yeah.
that issue, right?
Yeah.
We can put somebody paying for a meal at a location.
Well,
with a
I was
credit card.
meeting with 15 people or so that day. So
Okay. And what time did the meeting end?
I would say between 3 and 4.
Okay. And are you sure that that's the same day you went out with your wife?
Well, I think so. Yeah, because she was here, and I think that was the day we went to this restaurant in Westboro. Yes.
Okay. You finished dinner, and do you remember what you did that evening?
I would have driven back to Tweed.
Okay. And you would have... Now, again, I know we're talking 2 months ago here, but do you
Yeah.
remember specifically having dinner and then driving back to Tweed, or do you remember, are you just guessing here?
All right, so let's recap what we've seen so far. Investigators established that he lives in close proximity of where the victim also lives. The investigator established that DNA could be the major deciding factor in finding suspects in the case. The investigator also get him to agree to give DNA sample. Investigators asking about his whereabouts on the days of these events. Investigators asking what type of tires he has on his truck. All of these questions will play a key role in determining if he was a part, involved, or had nothing to do with this situation.